Today's Sunday Times London has got a column by someone called Sarah Dittam, and its heading is Rock Gods Get a Free Press. Sinead was cold mad. Now, this is a person, Sarah Dittam, who is not exceptional in that those who are writing about this Muslim woman who just died are doing that actively being in denial of the fact that she is a Muslim. So they're focusing on her being a woman, a part of the woman that this one is actually, if you like, upholding. And the other bits are from people who knew her or were, in some cases, in relationships with her. And there is no recognition in any of the Fleet Street titles, that is, newspapers, British so called mainstream newspapers, of the fact of racism. Because if she became a Muslim in 2008, according to their reluctant admissions, then she was a Muslim for at least 5 calendar years. She wasn't a Catholic ordained priest for as long, or in any position as a recognizable believer in the supposed religion of Rastafari, although she had associations with parts of the Rastafari kind of outlook, as became clear during her appearance on the Saturday Night Live when she was in her 20s, the satirical television outlet. The overwhelming attitude that she would have if she were sitting here looking at the papers with me, I would say, would be expressible in the rationale that she explained, is stated about the destination of her journey for a faith. Because she said that every analysis, every logical, evidential pointed to the faith of Islam. That is what she said. Let's check what she actually said. So this is the piece that is online on the account called insider.com. And the heading there is Sinead O'Connor converted to Islam in 2018 and changed her name to Shuhada Sadakat. Here is what she said about her Muslim faith. Now, there is a picture of her holding a microphone, of course, and wearing the head cover and body cover in full. And all these pictures that have been so far accessible by us, showing her in her Muslim dress, make her look content, unlike some others. O'Connor was a Muslim at the time of her death and went by the name Shuhada Sadakat. Now, not only was she a Muslim at the time of her death, she had been a Muslim for years. Here is when and why the later star converted to Islam, they are saying. O'Connor had a complicated religious history, having spent time in a Roman Catholic Magdalene laundry, an institution for fallen women. Now, we shall explore and examine the evidence concerning that, which could not have been done by anyone that loved her or respected her or had any real concern about her well being. As a teenager, O'Connor was a staunch critic of the Catholic Church, the early stages of her career. Well, that is factual, it's not a career. Her life, during an appearance on Saturday Night Live in 1992, the Dublin born singer tore up a picture of Pope John Paul III II to protest child sex abuse in the church. When they say child sex abuse, what do they mean? They are denying and covering up actually what was rape and what were rapes, what are rapes. Fight the real enemy, O'Connor said, directly to the camera as she ripped apart the picture. In 1999, that would be 7 years after that, she was then ordained as a priest by a breakaway church in France. The Catholic Church, which does not allow women to become priests. O'Connor said that she wished to become Bernadette Mary, the BBC reported. She also donated a large sum to the bishop who ordained her and apologized for tearing up the Pope's picture. I'm sorry I did that. It was a disrespectful thing to do, she said. The BBC reported. I have never even met the Pope. I'm sure he is a lovely man. It was more an expression of frustration. And there is this picture of her wearing the cross and a Christian kind of dress. On March 26, 2010, O'Connor appeared on CNN to again protest sexual abuse for criminals. Now, that was 2010, 8 years before it became public that she had become a Muslim. Do we need a fucking pope? Why do we need a pope? Christ doesn't need a representative, she said. In an open letter to Pope the year when she became Muslim, O'Connor asked to be excommunicated from the Catholic Church. Now, that's a strategic move. I mean, obviously, she was highly intelligent, and this shows the evidence of her high level of intelligence and strategic thinking. The reason why she asked for the Roman Catholic Church to excommunicate her was a strategic reason. Quote, I have several times requested from the Vatican a certificate which I could proudly display to my grandchildren to prove that Ratzinger and Pope John Paul II excommunicated me for being ordained, she wrote, Irish Central reported. She converted to Islam shortly after, obviously. In a statement on a since deactivated Twitter account in October 2018, O'Connor said she had become a Muslim. Now, this is the quotation that I'm about to read, is the one that I mentioned earlier in the introduction. This is the natural conclusion of any intelligent theologian's journey. That is, becoming a Muslim is the natural conclusion of any intelligent theologian's journey, she wrote. In her statement, O'Connor also renounced her Catholicism. All scripture surely leads to Islam, which makes all other scriptures redundant. Well, that is in the Quran as well. I will be given another new name. It will be Shuhada, Shuhada David. She later changed her last name to Sadakat. On top of her statement, O'Connor uploaded a video of herself signing the Azan, the Islamic call to prayer. And there is a video there which is credited to the Guardian, which is part of the call to the call to the prayers, Azan. Here is my last attempt at singing the Azan. She alongside the video. I got some pronunciation wrong because emotions took me from my page, but there will be hundreds of others on stage to come. During an interview on the Irish television show, The Late Show, in September 2019, which is the calendar year after she became a Muslim, O'Connor said, I have been a Muslim all my life and didn't realize it. The word revert refers to the idea that if you were to study the Quran, the Holy Quran, you would realize you were a Muslim all your life and you didn't realize it. Then nothing compares to you, Singer, explained to the show's host, Ryan Abridi. That is what happened to me. When asked how she came to discover she was a Muslim, O'Connor said, I started studying scriptures from different religions. Now, I'll read that again. That quotation I've slightly misread. I started studying scriptures from different religious, that is a spelling mistake by them, not me, trying to find the truth about God. Now, that different religious, I think, should be in context religions. So there's another video. I left Islam until last because I had so much prejudice about Islam, she added. But then when I started reading, and I read just chapter 2 alone of the Quran, and I realized, oh my God, I'm home. On Wednesday, this week, that is last Wednesday, the singer Cat Stevens, who also converted to Islam and now goes by Yusuf Islam off stage, can you imagine that word off stage, which shows Yusuf Islam as a creep, paid tribute to O'Connor. Now, Yusuf Islam would be among the first to get himself online on the record, as he tried to do in the campaign against racists and anti Muslims at the Stratford School in 1992 that I was running. As I have said before, Yusuf Islam or Cat Stevens sent a very thick, accented, Scottish accented white young person to try to take over the campaign and turn it into a so called Muslim campaign. It was not a campaign about Muslims, it was a campaign against racists. And I told this man to go get lost. Now, what Yusuf Islam is saying, I'm not going to quote because I have already labeled him as kind of not acceptable anyway. So they've got a correction here, July 27, 2023. An earlier version of this story misidentified Shanoda O'Connor as previously being an ordained Catholic priest. Her ordination was not recognized by the Roman Catholic Church. So these women, I mean, the there are three women there on this kind of page. One is, of course, Shuhada, Sadakat, and of course, the other, the campaigner, Greta Thunberg, and the late Diana. What a coincidence. Another, there is an image of Shuhada Sadakat singing while being dressed as a Muslim woman. She comes across as dignified. Okay, so what they're saying that she left her children instructions in the event of her death, including calling her accountant before 9/11. When artists are dead, they are much more valuable. The Irish singer, most famous for the 1990 rendition of Princess Nothing Compares to You, died at 22, only last year, and that really hit her. So we've got a series coming. As we said, we shall be publishing a comprehensive first part of our observations and updates and commentary on Shuhada Sadaqah sometime in the near future, whenever we can technically organize it. And for those people who are not familiar with the narratives and the kind of various sequential references to her and the fact that she's the only one we are referring to, the only ever white person who became a Muslim that we are positively referring to. We have not referred to anyone else. We shall explain all of that, and I'm just recapping on why. Because given everything she has said and everything that she would have said if she were continuing the mortal life, it is quite clear that Islam is home. Now, if Islam is home to her, now what does it mean for those people who are talking about her being misjudged, being berated, and all the rest of it while she was mortal, alive? Because they are not reflecting, representing, recognizing her being a Muslim, which is what she identified most as being. She's home. So this piece is a rare one on the internet, and we have just read this one from the www.insider.com/Sinead O'Connor, Islam, Muslim, Shuhada, Sadakat explained. So this is one explanation. There will be many others. And we have come across in the last 24 hours, of course, of another piece posted in Irish Post and briefly discussing the imam in a mosque or imam in the Islamic center in Ireland who helped Shuhada Sadakat become a Muslim. And there is a picture of the two of them sitting at an event, wherever that was. Obviously, it was in the office of this imam. And in the background of the imam and Shuhada Sadakat, there is a books lined up, and these books obviously are mainly in Arabic, I think. And the calligraphy on the covers of these books noticeable, because there are, let's say, about 40 books on on the shelves, and the calligraphy on the covers obviously were designed in a way they are put on the shelves next to one another. The total display becomes words as well, which is something I have not noticed anywhere before, which is interesting. It would be interesting to know what these words are, but that is what I have noticed. And as I said, the pictures of Shuhada Sadakat, all the pictures of her that I have seen so far online, with her wearing a Muslim dress, make her come across as contented, other completely different from the other pictures. The Metropolitan Police said that a woman was pronounced dead on Wednesday after police responded to an address in South London. This is the picture that is retrieved from the insider.com. The items today in the Sunday papers. I'll come to that in a minute. Let me just check this magazine, the Sunday Times magazine of today. There's a detailed about telepathic technology, about And there is a piece about Sheila Hancock and Lola Shaw, her granddaughter. Sheila is 90 and Lola is 25 at Lola's home in West London. And on the left, Sheila and her second husband, John Tho, in 1976. John Tho, of course, was an actor. And the piece in the Times magazine, by Times I mean, of course, the Murdoch-controlled Times of London, on Saturday, the 29th of July, again has got admissions by a media platform about the corruption, the criminality, and the criminal negligence on the part of the police. There is nothing like that in the ordinary part of the Times newspaper at all, which is significant, isn't it? Because whoever edits these newspapers obviously is not the same person or suffers from kind of various personality splits. And the Sunday Times magazine comes with two other magazines. One is called Culture, and the other is called Style. Now, I don't know what the difference is between Style and Culture. The Style one this weekend is fronted by Ashley Graham, a picture of they call her the supermodel, changing the face of fashion. Now, we are still judging what women should or shouldn't look like. That's the main piece. And the Ashley Graham is a woman on the big size of the description. Now, they are apparently criticizing the, male dominated attitude of the establishments to women. And there is a piece by the Polish. I hope I've been able to get the pronunciation, the Polish name, correct after all these years. Well, I've been using the same pronunciation whenever I have had to mention him. Waldemar Januszczak. I hope it has approximated to the correct pronunciation. I wonder if he would be able to pronounce Muslim names. So the Hadley Freeman is talking in the magazine, the Culture magazine, about the deaths in America that shamed the country. So these are pieces that I suppose the publications run as a kind of compensations for the downright corrupt lies that their main newspapers are vehicles of. They insert these alternative kind of outlooks. Remember the Sunday Times? The Sunday Times magazine became the central part of the feature of my campaign in defense of the community, especially focusing on the defense of the Bangladeshis and more specifically the defense of the Siloti speaking Bangladeshi community in Brick Lane in the east end of London. Now, calendar years, that's just 50 years ago. In times, 50 years, maybe, just to confine years ago. from the impact of the alignment of the plotted crossrail line. And there had already been an alternative line which would have left Brick Lane alone and would have been possible to run along the south of the plotted line, which is like along the Whitechapel High Street, which is, according to the plot, the plotted hole would have been somewhere between Princelet Street and Hanbury Street and Brick Lane, let's say. Now, this is now exactly 20 calendar years since K. Jordan and I walked from Brick Lane to the bus stop where K. Jordan took the bus to our home, Kentish Town. And in the conversation while we were walking from Brick Lane to the bus stop in Liverpool Street, K. Jordan brought to me the news that they were plotting to dig a hole in Brick Lane. Now, when she actually broke that information to me, I'm now recalling about, or I have recalled since it occurred. I didn't notice it at the time that she was talking to me. It actually was literally yards from the site of the plot planned site of the Heron Tower. The Heron Tower, of course, has been built since then, and it has become a vehicle, as is the case in the City of London big business architecture. It has been accumulating wealth for series of criminals that have been owning it. And this particular criminal who bribed Boris Johnson paid, according to Sunday Times, £10,000 to Ken Livingstone Livingstone. Now, Ken Livingstone Livingstone accepted the money in the knowledge and as part of the deal that as the incumbent in the post of mayor at the time, he would use his influence to make sure that Brick Lane was attacked while Tower plot was avoided from the attack. So, when Ken Livingstone Livingstone later discovers and appears in the face of as a kind of appreciator of a little politico in the east end of London called Luther Rahman, what should we do? Based on the evidence that we had, there was no option but to admit the truth and say that Livingstone was a criminal, racist, liar. Now, the fact that Luther Rahman and his cabal and his co criminals didn't support the campaign against the Crossrail hole was not coincidental, not accidental. So we come back to the defense of the community, especially the Muslim community, and so from the 2nd of December 1973 in the Sunday Times magazine to two incidents in 2003. One is Monica Ali, and the other is the Crossrail hole. So 73, 74, 73, 83, 93, 83, 93 to the 30 years. 30 years since the crook Leslie Garner had given her name and her prejudice to attacking the Silotis, the Bangladeshis, the Muslims in Brick Lane. She returned. When we started the campaign against Monica Ali, 2006 or so on, it was Leslie Garner. Of all the people in the British kind of Fleet Street, it was Leslie Garner. This racist criminal twat returned by repeating her attacks on the Silotis, the Bangladeshis, the Muslims. Now, what that proved, we didn't know that because we had no evidence other than that one 30 years after her original criminality that she actually personated in the lies against the Silotis, the Bangladeshis, the Muslims, that she had published in the Sunday Times on December the 2nd, 1973. But she actually published a detailed attack on the Silotis and a defense of Monica Ali in 2003, thereby making it an evidence, undeniable evidence for posterity and the whole of humanity that she had actually a very active part in attacking the Silotis, the Bangladeshis, the people of Brick Lane in 1973. So that actually proves innal batila kana zahuka. Falsehood is doomed to perish. And her false pretense of the 1973 version was exposed as being false. With her confession, we didn't force her. Remember, this is the more than 50 years, and I have not made any attempt whatsoever of making any contact with Leslie Garner. Why? Well, her defense of Monica Ali in 2003 proves the point. If I got in touch with her and asked her any questions, I would not get the truth from her. I would get lies, and it would make me even more upset than her original lies and attacks made me. So for 50 years, upset by the attacks on the community, which is my community because it actually is based on my wider family members being in the east end of London in Brick Lane area for more than 100 years now. So it's my community. I come from Silot, but here in Brick Lane, it is my community. So it is not some kind of theoretical construct. I know that community, and in building the defense of the community, in organizing the defense of the community, I have done exactly what I would have done if it were based in Silot. People who don't know the community and most certainly don't know me obviously make the wrong conclusion that it's just a plastic kind of thing. I'm doing a what they wrongly call the community activist job. It's not. It's my family, my home. I may have been born in Silot, but even long before I was born biologically, I had wider family members already in Brick Lane and helping other people more than 100 years ago. So when I finally physically arrived in Brick Lane, let's say in East End of London, I didn't come as a stranger. I came and I met already people, hundreds of people that I knew were related. Whereas both Nina Hussain and Monica Ali, they are complete outsiders. And they've been, if you like, bribed and they've been paid by anti Muslim, anti Siloti, anti Bangladeshis to spew lies against our community and our people. Significantly enough, that those who supported, like Leslie Garner, who rushed back to the news, if you like, making a comment, a series of comments in defense of Monica Ali, have had nothing to say in defense of the community, the real brick lane that we have been defending, against the crossrail hole. Even among the Bangladeshi people that enjoy the benefits of the defense that I have been mobilizing and organizing, they don't know just how deep my background is in Brick Lane in the East End of London. For them, it is a kind of, again, a plastic kind of reference. Like this idiot, what's his name? This idiot that became chair of the Channel Slaves. This idiot who is a dishonorable, has got a dishonorable record in Bath as a restaurateur before he was installed as a replacement for Mahi Ferdaus Jalil after Jalil's series of criminal convictions and imprisonments, and he is being banned from being a director, etc., etc. He claimed in one piece broadcast by Channel Slaves that he, the channel, and himself had some part in organizing the campaign against the Crossrail hole. Ahammak. His name is, I call him Ahammak Samad Chaudhry. And this liar is lying. He must withdraw that claim and apologize for lying. And apologize to me and apologize to other people that I have been mobilizing and organizing in all these campaigns defending the community in the East End of London. Ahammak Samad Chaudhry. He has no idea. So we shall be talking about the defense of the community, defense of the identity, and we shall be talking about the defense of the identity and the convictions and the faith of Shuhada Sadakat against the Sunday Times, the mainstream news, because in the Sunday Times main kind of news pages, there is this item by Hadley Freeman, isn't it? That she is talking about Shuhada Sadakat, but she is not talking about Shuhada Sadakat as a Muslim. She is talking about her as a woman. Let's check. And they've got also of course, this Sunday Times is full of the propaganda for the liar, fascist, nasty Nigel Farage. And there is a piece, of course, given to this African descended Kemi Badenoch. Kemi Badenoch is the female equivalent, female equivalent of a mental slave, that is Trevor Terrible Phillips. Now, mental slaves like Kemi Badenoch, there are too many of them in the Conservative Party. Now, isn't that ironic? Isn't that significant? Because Kemi Badenoch, I mean, when she is appearing in front of, let's say, of the camera, what appears before she opens her mouth? What becomes clear? It's, of course, her blackness. And when she opens her mouth, it's her whiteness. So she is the type of personification of Thomas Babington Macaulay. Now, Thomas Babington Macaulay, of course, made his name, he became notorious by spewing complete ignorance about the languages and cultures of the subcontinent, what is now Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, in the 1830s. Because he said that once the British imperialists had successfully foisted the British imperialist racist education program on the subcontinent's people, the people would be externally on the outside brown and on the inside English. Of course, Babington Macaulay was completely stupid and he didn't include the majority of the people that live or have lived since that time in the subcontinent. And anyone who has actually studied the contents of what he said, what he wrote, and anyone who has done that by examining the contents of contemporary subcontinent and also contemporary Western world the imperialism would not agree with him, because that is not something that logically, scientifically can be agreed with. Whereas when you look at the contents of something called Kemi Badenow and Trevor Terrible Pea Leaves, and you see that they're having a go at people who are against racism, against the denial, the culture, denial of the cultural identity, the faith identity of the people of African backgrounds or Asian backgrounds. Because Kemi Badenow is recruited by the racists with the clear, express purpose and intent to use them as mental slaves. That's why there is this preponderance, the predominance in numerical terms of too many black skinned individuals serving the agenda of the racists. And the racists are to be found numerically more in numbers among the conservatives than in the Labour Party, although the Labour Party is as racist as Roy Fattersley notoriously made clear by referring to his Asians. While there was this debate in the 1980s, when the Labour Party's then decision makers launched the stupidity called Labour Party black sections. So Kemi Badenoch is saying in the Sunday Times today, diversity obsession has led to Kafkaesque madness. Well, she is the mad one, genuine madness. She is the original mad one, and Franz Kafka must have had a model based on her in anticipation of her appearance biologically long time after he was writing. So what do you do with this? That is not an that kind of space being given, the platform being given by the Sunday Times to the likes of Kemi Badenoch is not an alternative, not an answer to Hadley Freeman. Now, Hadley Freeman is one of the racists that has been rehabilitated and given a platform by the Dirty Digger Murdoch's Sunday Times after she left the Guardian. Now, the reason she gives for leaving the Guardian may have pleased her, but objectively tested, it is an untruthful reason, whatever the reason is. It's like it's like the Australian women, the two of them, fighting over the space on the Guardian. The one who replaced the one that was ousted from the Guardian as a columnist, the one who replaced the ousted one was derided by the ousted one as wearing shoes that she called fuck me shoes. I mean, that is the intensity of hatred between these two white women in Australia. So there is really no choice. And it's like having a Kemi Badenow defending the community attacked by racists. It can only be worse than the original racist attacks. And then on top of that piece is the item over promoting nasty racist Nigel Farage. Now, even the Guardian is now promoting Farage and stupidly running headings like this, that it shows that Farage has become the most influential politician in this country or person in this country. Well, that is a misconception. That is a factual, evidential misconception typical of the Guardian. And the fact that the Guardian is fronted by this corrupt individual called Ketvina means that there is no rigor, there is no ethics, there is no morality, there is no checking the facts. Because the real driving force behind nasty Nigel Farage's so called politics includes his desperation to avoid being criminally prosecuted for stealing money from the European Union. Farage is a thief. I mean, it is surprising that the so called subject access request that he made to the bank and the disclosures that he has published doesn't include anything to do with his being followed as we speak. Farage is under investigation, has been under investigation from the European Union, let's say, accountants, for making false claims for expenses, running into millions of pounds over a very long time. And it is the determination of those people in charge of the accountancy of the European Union that actually has kept the pressure on nasty Nigel Farage. But the British police state know that. The political outlets know that. But they choose not to highlight that, let alone to expressly accuse Farage of being a serial thief. Why? It's not ethical. It's not anything to do with moral. Because all these likely accusers of Farage, either in the Conservative Party or in the Labour Party, and that is because the Labour Party is fronted by a political murderer of the Labour Party, you don't expect any real high standards anyway in the Labour Party. But in the Conservative Party, there are too many conservatives who are wrongly being given the label that they are too frightened of the power of nasty Nigel Farage. That is a lie. Nasty Nigel Farage, as one letter has during the last week has actually correctly summed up. In the last 30 years, he has stood for election as a member of parliament and he could not get in even once. That is the truth of Nigel Nasty Farage's appeal to the public in this country. It's not me making up, it is on the records. All the English or British general elections that Nigel Farage took part in as a candidate for election to the House of Commons, all the elections have produced results that show he has not got elected. But that is to say that Nigel Farage is a thief and that he has got no electoral record will be telling the truth. And the last thing that the British politicians, the British media want to do is to tell the truth. So they are parading him as the new most influential person in Britain. Well, he has been like this forever. And there are other items about corruption. This one, the exorcism, fanatical vicar ran church like a cult. What's new? The church is totally corrupt. The church is totally corrupt. Not just the Catholic Church, but the Anglican Church as well, which is the numerically the majority church in terms of the population here. And then there is a spread, full page spread, is it? Where it is headed Johnson's junior peers. What that one says is actually justifying the crookedness of corrupt Boris Johnson in appointing to the House of Peers too many young individuals. And their rationale is that they were indispensable to him. So they're openly supporting crooks and corruption and so forth. So what we shall be doing will be continuing in the following editions of the Khoodeelaar television channel being broadcast under the banner of the Baby Angel Geronimo editions. Baby Angel Geronimo is vindicated every time a lying event occurs, either in the form of a decision by the crooks in the UK government or UK Parliament, UK media. So Baby Angel Geronimo is the biggest, most independent, most authentic witness to the bad doings on the part of the British media, the United Kingdom government, United Kingdom Parliament, and we shall continue with this theme and agenda and purpose in the editions to follow. This is now 1 hour and 7 minutes long, and we are bringing an end to this one at 10:22 GMT on Sunday, the